Doma Sports Talk worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed, baby. Now, some Tyson Fury news, right? Which normally we say here, whatever. Let me explain that. When it comes to Tyson Fury in boxing, Adrian Broner in boxing, Amir Khan in boxing, then whatever. Because those guys seem to be guys that just want to be in the middle. You know what I mean? You know, want some attention seekers. So, you know, I normally ignore a lot. For example, Adrian Broner fought over the weekend. I still ain't watched that fight. I doesn't care, you know, not yet. He's going to have to show me some discipline, you know, over a half a year or something. Then we can talk. But I wasn't interested. That's how I roll. But Tyson Fury is similar, but sometimes you can't ignore some of the things Tyson Fury is doing. High-profile guys, all of them. And Tyson Fury does things sometimes that you might have to say something about because for society reasons. Tyson Fury posts something on one of these social medias. Everybody here knows I don't do social media instead of just YouTube. I'm not on Instagram and what's the other one, Twitter and all that. So, but he's posted something accidentally saying he's the white people's champion. Right? Not the people's champion, but he said he's the white people's champion. Now, from what I heard, it was a faux pas, right? But, you know, I'm not sure what Tyson Fury faux pas, you know, because he's been to America. So, you know what I mean? And that's what's happening there. And, you know, with all the shenanigans with the Deontay Wilder fight. And it's not whether people believe something happened with the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury fight or not. That's not the point anymore. The point is, regardless, somebody should want to look into it, especially with someone who has done many things before. Right? So Tyson Fury just said he's the white people's champion. And any brother from the States probably going to tell you straight up, well, duh. You understand? No joke there. So, but he said it was an accident from what I heard, right? But, you know, things accidentally or not, you know, things be happening with Tyson Fury. You know, I don't know if it was an accident a few months ago when he was singing a Biggie Smalls song, you know. If you don't know, now you know. Boom. Everybody knows it comes right there, right? Tyson Fury singing that with his son or daughter on social media somewhere. I didn't see it. I just heard about it. Right? I didn't even report on it. Just like, well, it's Tyson Fury. And they didn't have to say, you know, the N-word out there with your son or daughter. That's a good time to educate them that, we don't want to say that, and here's the reasons why. Right? But that didn't happen either. Well, so whatever. And, you know, little things when I'm saying Tyson Fury, you know, he cheats and stuff. You know, like there was a fight a few years back. Tyson Fury beat Steve Cunningham. Steve Cunningham weighed about 205. Tyson Fury about 260 pounds. Right? He was doing a lot of cheating in that fight. You know, rabbit punching. You know, pushing the head down. Those kind of things. What a big guy was going to do to a smaller guy, which you outweigh over 50 pounds. Well, after that fight, you know, the referee, I think it was Eddie Cotton at the time, had said that was the worst boxer he's ever had to referee. The worst he ever had to referee. Now, those things happen. He said that. Here's the problem nothing happens when you do things like this. You become an enabler. Like right there, somebody should supposed to stop Eddie Cotton, bring him to the office, explain to us what the hell he's doing. After finding out what Eddie Cotton says, go into Tyson Fury, make sure those things don't happen again, and also maybe going through the media to make sure those things don't happen again. But if nothing happens, then you become stronger, the person who's doing these injustices and transgressions. So, you know, that's how it is with Tyson Fury. He keeps doing a lot of things, doping or whatever, but nothing happens. So, hey, whatever. So let's see what happens going forward. Now, with Tyson Fury, that's not all, right? Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua was supposed to be in for the biggest fight for Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. It's supposed to be coming soon, right? But when it comes to Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, that fight, they're all over the place with that fight. And I told you months ago, I had nothing but thumbs down, hey, I told you it's going to be a flop, that fight. I don't know, but I was saying the flop is going too far. It's just not going to do as well as people think, right? There's a lot of stuff going on with that fight, if it happens at all, right? Now, I was saying that months ago. Now, let me give you something what Tyson Fury was just saying yesterday. Tyson Fury was just saying yesterday that the fight is not closer now than it was a year ago. Think about that. It's not closer now than it was a year ago. And approximately a year ago, a little bit less. Remember when Tyson Fury came out saying, hey, thanks, Daniel Kinahan, the guy who's affiliated with the mob, allegedly, brought that fight, him and Anthony Joshua, over the line. And Tyson Fury was on social media thanking the guy for doing so, and the fight was supposed to be a 2-fight deal, and that was back in June, July of last year. And we still, still the fight is not done, right? As last year, right? And just that. Now we don't want to go on Daniel Kinahan and the mafia thing, because that was a big documentary in England, and they have to sort that out. He's affiliation with them and done a lot of transgressions. Mob. When you say mob, they ain't playing around. So he's supposed to be in charge of a lot of boxing matches, and that's not good to be affiliated with somebody like that. But England's been doing this big report about that, to the point where Eddie Hearn, the promoter of Anthony Joshua, said they got to do something about it because it's not good for boxing. So that's something they have to issue. But Tyson Fury is affiliated with him. You think he just thanked him for bringing that fight over the line last year. Now remember, December 5th, Tyson Fury was supposed to have a fight with Agit Kabayel, the Turkish guy by way of Germany, undefeated Turkish guy, because he was saying he don't feel like waiting on Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder's contract expired, right? We found out that wasn't true, that it expired. It was only pushed back because of the pandemic, right? But Tyson Fury and his team, Frank Warren, was saying that it expired. The contract has expired. Found out that was wrong. Did the media do anything when they found out that was wrong? Right? Did they excuse themselves for Deontay Wilder? Like, hey, it's not your fault. Deontay Wilder just being quiet. Nothing happens. So that's why you continue. It sounds like Fox News to me. Like, hey, we can just continue to just spit out lies and nothing happens. There's no repercussions, right? Now, Tyson Fury said it wasn't, the fight's not closer than it was a year ago. And he said he wants to have 2 fights in 2021. It doesn't matter if it's with Anthony Joshua or not. Doesn't sound like that fight's as close as we've been hearing, right? Because now, you go to Eddie Hearn, the promoter of Anthony Joshua. Eddie Hearn, for the last 8 weeks, have been saying in 2 weeks we're going to have this fight over the line. In 2 weeks, we only have a few things left. Like who's going to be on the left side of the poster, who's going to walk out first, those little things, and the fight's going to be okay. And that's been 8 weeks, and every 2 weeks he'd have to say something. And Eddie Hearn was talking a lot, so much so that Bob Arum, the promoter of the stateside promoter of Tyson Fury, said Eddie Hearn talks too much. He can't keep his mouth shut about that situation. And what's holding up the situation is just simply those things maybe that Eddie Hearn is talking about, but also that the fact that the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury trilogy was supposed to happen. It was contracted, and they're in mediations or arbitration right now. That is the real issue that everybody's trying to act like it's not really going on. That is hindering the fight from happening, whether people want to agree with that or not, or acknowledge that or not. Now, that brings me to another point like this. If the fans wanted Fury and Deontay Wilder 3, we would have the fight by now. All of this stuff is going on. Let's make sure this is clear. If you really want Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, if the fans really wanted that, they would have said, Tyson Fury, just beat this guy up for the 3rd time. You have a contract, and then you can fight Anthony Joshua after that, right? And Anthony Joshua could have fought in the meantime Usyk, where he would have no more mandatory problems, right? That's the real way to go. You can't just breach your contract and just because you want to have a fight with another Brit. It doesn't work like that, because if we really realize what really is going on with the fighting with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder is they had the first fight contracted. They were supposed to have a second fight after the first fight was a draw. Tyson Fury breached contract then and went and started to fight Tom Swartz and Otto Wallin. That wasn't in the contract. Instead of, and Wilder didn't even get upset. He went and fought Dominic Breazeale and voluntary Luis Ortiz, who nobody else will fight in the first place. That's who he fought. Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to pout about Tyson Fury not wanting to fight anymore. That's what he did. Tyson Fury breached the contract, then got another opportunity to fight. And the fight, they were supposed to have a trilogy. He beats Wilder, and then I don't want to fight Wilder no more. Matter of fact, he says, I don't want to, Wilder breached the contract. No, the contract expired on the 5th, which wasn't true. And he said Deontay Wilder insulted me, right, by saying that I've cheated, which is, we're boxers. That's what we live from, insults. So I don't know how many fans are going to continue to just sit here and say, well, it's okay what Tyson Fury's doing. He's the reason. He's out now complaining about he's out of the ring for a long time. If he would have fought Deontay Wilder in December, or January, which they wanted to push back to January, would have that fight, and then your fight, because you're going to beat Deontay Wilder up, right? So your fight would have been in June or July, just like you want to have it now. You wouldn't have any mediations, any arbitrations, or none of that, right? And the fans, that's what we're supposed to be talking about, but we're not, because it's Deontay Wilder involved. Let me make sure this is clear. When it's racism, a lot of people don't like Deontay Wilder. It's also nationalism. You know, there's some people, the Anthony Joshua fans, for example, from England, or like certain parts of Africa, like Nigeria or something. That's cool, all right? But then the racist ones, especially the stateside racist ones, and don't act like it's not. Everybody see the states. It should be East and West America. Then we'd have peace. But as long as we're trying to be one and we're not even close, that's just ridiculous. Hypocrisy there. People can look at crime. As long as it's happening to people of color, they don't even care. Or as long as it's white-collar crime and stuff like that, don't even care. So make sure it's clear. When it comes to a fighter, the hell with him. And if it's racism, for all these fighters with the same color, we'd have big fights. But we don't get fights. I keep doing videos about fights that I don't get to see, fights that I want. Just normal fights between champions. I'm not saying some dude that's in obscurity that I like and I want to have fights. Just champions versus champions that we could have one guy. Canelo Alvarez, Demetrius Andrade. Undisputed fight. No one clamored for it. Canelo was able to go fight Kovalev instead of fight him for undisputed. Couldn't get it. Canelo versus Charlo. Oh, we couldn't get it. Canelo asked for a franchise title for the WBC, or the Charlo belt is what I like to call it. We asked for something new. He got it. Right? Lomachenko versus Devin Haney. Couldn't get it. Lomachenko did the same thing Canelo did and got a franchise belt. Then Teofimo beats him. Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney for undisputed. Can't have it. Right? Can't have it. There's fights like that. Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder trilogy, just to get some closure there, make sure everything's fair. Can't have it. And everybody's okay with that. These guys with the same color, these fights will happen. Right? We're going to have issues with Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson. Watch. And the guys that don't want to fight, right? They'll say to the guys that they don't want to fight, they'll give them titles. You're boring. I don't want to fight you. Who have you fought, right? You can't ask champions who have you fought. You can't ask mandatories who have you fought. But if you are going to do that, Canelo's fighting Yildirim, and he's hell-bent on fighting Yildirim, right? Who has he fought? Gennady Golovkin was hell-bent on fighting Samareta. Who the hell has he fought? You see what I'm saying? Hell-bent. What I mean by hell-bent on fighting, so you can just know, let me just let you know exactly what I mean by hell-bent. That means I ain't trying to fight nobody hard. I'm going to call up that sanctioning body. In Canelo's case, it was the WBC, and in Gennady Golovkin's case, it was the IBF, and tell them to elevate this guy to mandatory so I can fight him and so I can call him a mandatory so it won't look too bad. Literally what's happening, right? Let a brother try that. Let a brother try that. We got a problem with Jamal Charlo right now as middleweight, talking to David Benavidez, a guy that Canelo definitely is not trying to fight. He had the WBC title at 168. Canelo didn't want to fight him. As soon as he got stripped of the title, Canelo then wants the title, right? That guy in Charlo is 160 and Benavidez is 168 and can barely make 168, right? And because Charlo might not want to fight this guy, it's going to be some big news about that. I don't give a damn if Charlo don't ever fight him. You see what I'm saying? Not until we understand that Charlo and Benavidez are two guys that Canelo didn't want to fight, right? And Canelo did the same thing with Demetrius Andrade at 154. Demetrius Andrade had the 154 title, WBO style. Canelo did not want to fight him. Demetrius Andrade was calling him out his name, trying hard to fight Canelo. Couldn't get him. As soon as he got stripped out of inactivity because he couldn't get no fights, Demetrius Andrade, what happens? Leon Smith gets the title. Canelo fights Leon Smith for the same title Demetrius Andrade has. And they continue to do these things. And they act like you don't see it. And when you mention it, oh, it's a black channel. It had nothing to do with black. Either you're going to be fair or you're not going to be fair. But don't act like we're not going to see. Because it's patronizing to me. It's so obvious to me. That's why I barely watch any fights. This weekend, Canelo about to fight Yildirim. Are you going to watch that? Are you hyped about watching that? Nope. I'll be watching Joseph Parker Jr. fall. And after that, I'll be watching some hoops or something else. Right? But it ain't going to be no Canelo and Yildirim on the simple fact of y'all not going to force that down my throat. Right? You're going to have to get it together. Now, back up to Tyson Fury. Fury posted that he's the white people's champion. Do you think that was an accident? Doma Sports Talk worldwide, and we up out of here, y'all.